You are tuned into LocalMotion 91.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here for the next hour, each and every Wednesday, I should say, from 4 to 6 p.m., but now it's 5 p.m., and we'll start off this hour, and it's all going to be dedicated to the music of John Medeski, who will be my guest on the phone shortly, momentarily. We're going to start off by playing some music that he just sent me. I'll let him talk about it once we get done taking a listen to it, and I look forward to talking with him soon, and lots of great music coming your way this next hour. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Let's take a listen to this new track by John Medeski. We'll be together again. Right here, right now, 91.3. 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Mr. John Medeski will be together again. I've got him on the phone. Let's get him on air. John?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. We are live on air. Let me do a brief introduction, and first of all, say thank you for your time here today. And let's say that pianist, organist, composer John Medeski is best known as being a member of the trailblazing instrumental trio Medeski, Martin, and Wood. He has been credited on over 300 works to date. John has worked with countless musicians, including The Word, Robert Randolph, North Mississippi All-Stars, John Schofield, Mark Rebo, Irma Thomas, Blind Boys of Alabama, just to name a few. He'll be performing in Marlborough on Sunday along with Mark Rebo and hosting a 5-week interactive workshop with Medeski, Martin, and Wood. With that, an official welcome to LocalMotion, John Medeski.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me, Rita.
Yeah, always a pleasure talking with you, and it's a great pleasure seeing you perform live, which we've been lucky enough to do during these crazy times that we're living in. We're so lucky to have you as a Hudson Valley resident and get to see you perform at the Falcon a couple of times. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's rare, but it's nice to be able to, sort of like novel, these little gigs.
Right.
I think I've done maybe 1, 2, so far 3 or 4 things in front of people since March. March 8th was my last gig in Tampa, Florida with The Word. That was the last live gig, and then I've done a few things. I did a solo set over at Soundscapes, over to Gillis's place, which was really fun. That was the first thing I did, for about 40 masked people sitting on the lawn, 50 people, and then then the Falcon, has been, able to provide an outlet for musicians. I mean, they mainly, have to continue as a restaurant and bar, but they are, providing an opportunity for musicians to get together and play there for their patrons, a limited number of people. And I'm actually playing there again this Sunday night.
Yeah, you are, with Mark Rebo.
Yeah, with Mark Rebo and the great drummer Joe Dyson. So really looking forward to that. And that's probably it. It's going to be too cold to be outdoors after that, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. Do you know what time that show is, John, on Sunday at the Falcon?
They start at 7 o'clock is when they've been doing those.
Okay, cool. Cool. I saw you there a couple of times with Club Delph, and then you played, with Sex Mob. You played there with Sex Mob.
Yeah, I did. I played with Sex Mob minus the Brigand, the sax player, because he wasn't ready to get out into the world yet and perform.
Right.
I think people living in the city are definitely more shell-shocked from how it all went down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And how it looks like it may be coming back that way, too. So we all have to stay diligent and safe and all of that. Hey, listen, I just saw you online. Tell us about Hudson Valley Votes. You were the music director for that online concert this past weekend. And tell us about that. What a great, vast array of local musicians you got together.
Yeah, well, Hudson Valley is loaded with incredible artists of all kinds, and a lot of, unbelievable musicians, I think a lot of people have moved here after doing a stint in the city, when their careers have maybe reached a point that they are traveling more than, playing in their hometown. I know that's how it worked for me. It was great to be in New York when I was there, and because of all the places to play and the collection of artists and musicians, that you can learn from and play with and work with. But at a certain point, for me, I was traveling so much that going back to the city was, it wasn't really like getting a break,
Right.
So I moved up this way in 2003.
Nice. Nice.
So a lot of musicians live up here, I think, and have made their way up here. So I guess the idea is, this Hudson Valley Votes they've done live concerts the past few years just to bring awareness and encourage people to vote, which we all need to do.
Yes.
And it's our right and our duty.
Early voting starts Saturday here in New York State. I always ask people to make a plan to vote, like figure it out. Don't just wait till election day, because what if the lines are 2 hours and you can't make it for 2 hours, So there's early voting. I know in Dutchess County, there's like 5 different places you can start voting Saturday. You can vote Sunday. You don't have to take time off if you're working, and you can vote right up until November 2nd, early voting.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I'm planning on it. We're planning on it.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. So the idea of the Hudson Valley Votes was just, I think we wanted to do an event, and as many of us are doing now, ways to put things out online, and it's the live streaming thing, I think is, in my opinion, is challenging, and I think it has its pros and cons, like anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what they opted for, because of all the different artists, in order to keep a certain distancing protocol, and to make, because everyone has different levels of how they feel as far as safety, and depending on where they're living, what county they're in, and it felt like a good way to do it was to keep it very distanced. So that's what we did, and got a great lineup of artists.
Yeah, you did. Where did you tape this? Was this at Hutton Brickyards, or where was that?
It was at the music that I was part of was recorded at the Hutton Brickyards.
Mm-hmm.
We had originally planned on doing something over at Opus 40, which is another beautiful spot.
Gorgeous.
But, of course, it was the one day that it rained all summer. Mm-hmm. So we scrambled, to try to, because we had this day set up and everybody was planning on it, and a lot of schedules to bring together, especially, everybody's, donating their time and energy. So the Hutton Brickyard very, very quickly and generously allowed us to use that space. It's my first time there. It was an amazing space. And in a lot of ways, it was great because we were able to really be spread out, and there was a lot of room for everyone to, feel comfortable. And so, we filmed all of the... And you had a roof over
your head, but yet it was all open.
It was a very high roof, and with the Hudson River right behind us, it was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So we pre-recorded all the songs that I was involved in. We had a house band, that with Ben Perowski on drums, Michelle Indigliacello on bass.
She was awesome. I'd never seen her before, John. Holy crap!
Oh, really?
No,
she's incredible. No, she's just an incredible musician, an incredible spirit, incredible force. And she's just one of the best bass players there is.
Wow. I got to learn more.
Singer. I think, you should. Oh, you got to check her music out. It's incredible. Like she has some great. She's a great singer and songwriter and conceptualist and everything. But she's also just a really great bass player. Mm-hmm. So it was nice that she agreed to do that and be in the house band the way she was. So it was really an honor. We had Ben Perowski on drums. Another incredible drummer who's got a place up here, and also Steve Jordan played drums on 2 tunes, and he's been up here, I guess, for a while. I didn't even know he was up here until somebody said, we should give him a call and see if he'd be up for it. And then Daniel Littleton was on guitar.
He's amazing. Isn't he crazy good? I just call him crazy good because he's beyond words.
No, he's fantastic. He knows so much music and loves so much music, and is so passionate and a great guitar player. He was perfect for the situation,
Yeah. No, good stuff. It was really great to see. It was just long enough. It was awesome. And you had, you had some beautiful vocals there by the ladies, right? You had Nora Jones and Amy Helm, and who else? Simi?
Well, Simi Stone was on. Yeah, Simi Stone. There was, Natalie Merchant.
That's
Kate
right.
Pearson.
Yeah.
Abena from the. What are they called? From the.
Oh, it's okay. It happens,
The Revolutionary Revival Chorus.
There you go.
It was really a blast.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, Mr. Medeski, I always like to back up a little bit and get history of people when they started in music. So, you were known as a child prodigy on the piano. Tell me about your start.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were. You always have a hard time taking.
I don't know who made that up.
Well, geez, you start playing piano at 5, and by the time you were a teenager, you're playing with Jaco Pastorius. That's doing pretty good.
That's just called lucky. Is what that's called. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Pompano Beach, South Florida, and I started taking classical piano lessons when I was 5 or so, and got interested in jazz through a neighbor down the road from me who was a drummer. He was a little older. He was my friend's older brother, and he was a jazz drummer. And it was Rob Shue, and he played some of the I had been listening mostly to classical music and then stuff that my parents had, which and had my introduction to that music through their music, but my dad was really more into like Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and Frankie Carl and Peter Nero and Ferranti and Teicher and these guys who were like more classical meets popular music sort of piano players. And and I went, and Rob dragged me into his room and says, "Hey, check this out." And he played Oscar Peterson for me.
Wow.
And then I'm hearing Oscar play some of these same songs, but in a whole other way. And it kind of blew my head off. Right. And began, this obsession
with
that
jazz.
music. He also turned me on to at that was like from then on I just dove into everything, and I was very fortunate to get to I was probably 11 years old or so, and I got to study with an incredible pianist named Lee Shaw.
Love her.
Who
you loved her?
Yeah, well, she was living in Florida at that time.
Amazing.
Because they were taking care of her husband's mother. Mm-hmm. And they just happened to be down there, and we saw her play. When I was growing up, there were actually 3 jazz clubs in Fort Lauderdale, which was kind of crazy. There no longer are 3 jazz clubs, but at the time, there's a really vibrant live music scene down there, very unique and potent live music scene. Mm-hmm. So I saw her, and then asked her, and she talked to me for a little bit, and she said, "Sure, I don't usually work with kids, but so she really gave me an incredible amount of information, records to listen to, people to check out. And she, really, opened me up to improvising and, jazz theory and all that kind of stuff.
And how old were you at this point? Teenager?
I was 11.
11?
No, I was like 11 or 12 when I started studying with her. So I got into that, and I was always doing music, basically.
Wow.
It was kind of the,
And you formed a little trio.
Well, I was asked to be part of this trio, down there. It was called Emergency back then, and it was with this great bass player who I have since reunited with this project called Saudades. Right now, his name is Charles Norcus, or AKA Chuck Doom, and it's just a small world. Ran into him at Applehead Studios.
Wow!
And have been playing with this project since. He's recording a bunch of music with a lot of really incredible musicians. And
funny how it just comes back sometimes, right? And
I hadn't seen him since high school, and we played together then. It was with that band. We used to play a club called the Musicians Exchange, which was sort of the spot for all kinds of jazz or jazz inspired music. Which down there meant a lot of different things, because there was this very strong Cuban influence down there, Caribbean influence. It really had its own sort of music scene, and and that's where I got to play with Jaco a bunch, because he would come down and sit in with the band. And
how old are you at this point?
Like 15, 16,
Amazing.
14, 15, that age, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Did you know of Jaco when you first...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. I was very into Jaco, because back then I was a kid when his first record came out, Weather Report and all that stuff. So that was just part of our fabric of music that we listened to. That was the new music coming out then, So of course I knew Jaco and had seen him, and I got to play with him in a lot of different situations, of varying kinds, from jam sessions to he would come sit in with us at this club and
wow,
basically take over the bandstand for the rest of the night. We would play and played. I even played like a couple of afternoon jazz standard gigs with him, like just playing straight ahead.
You got any recordings with him? Any video with him, or no?
No.
That was too early.
There might be a cassette somewhere.
Yeah.
If I actually ever went through my cassettes.
Right.
And then he actually asked me to go on tour with him. to Japan back then, but
You were a little too young.
My mom said no, probably wisely.
Oh man. Yeah, probably. Oh, what an honor to be asked by Jocko to go on tour. Super cool.
Yeah.
And then you made your way up to.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that at that point. I don't think, because honestly, I don't think anything that I've sort of done in the, since then probably wouldn't have happened had I gone out and done that at that point.
Yep.
At that point, I really was I considered myself a piano player. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I had a Fender Rhodes, which that I used some effects with, only because there was no piano at these clubs.
Right.
So I had to have something, but I didn't love the sound of it. So I got like a distortion pedal and some other stuff just to help me get a sound that I related to.
Yeah.
But I still never, I would say I didn't even, I'm not sure, I don't know how to put it, but I guess I didn't really take it seriously. I mean, I liked it, but I was fancied myself a piano player, and I sold my Fender Rhodes when I went to college for a little money, and, went on to be a classical, went into music school as a classical piano major because...
Performance or performance? Yeah.
Performance. And this is we're talking 1983, and at that time, there was Berklee College of Music, but there were no jazz programs like there are now in all the schools in New York.
Right. So you found your way to Boston and went to...
Yeah, New England Conservatory. But I applied to Juilliard, New England Conservatory, and Eastman. I got into all three schools.
You did,
and I picked New England Conservatory because they actually had a jazz program, and they had an open enough concept as a conservatory that they allowed you to move back and forth between different programs there. Like as a classical major, I was allowed to audition for the jazz band and do all that kind of stuff. So I went there thinking that, I guess I should go get a degree in classical music if I'm going to do that, because the jazz degree at that time didn't mean anything, And it also seemed to me that, really, you wanted to move to New York and learn to play from playing more than going to school. So it didn't make sense to me to go to school for jazz. At that point, I think now it's a different story. There's a lot of great jazz. There's a lot of great teachers. It's a whole different world.
But
now. Back then, that's what it felt like to me, So. But I only lasted 1 year as a classical major. I really came clear to me that is not even remotely what I wanted to do. As much as I love the music, and I still do and listen to it. And
do you still play at home on your own once in a while? Play classical?
Yeah, sometimes. I'm more to just investigate it. I'm not working up repertoire, but I definitely get it. Especially a lot of contemporary stuff. Just for information and. So I love the music, and I listened to it a lot, and so I switched over to this department there it was called the Third Stream Department at that point, which the idea behind the Third Stream Department was that anybody could take whatever kind of music they liked and work with it in a way to assimilate it into their own style. And that was sort of the premise of the program, which was very revolutionary, and it still is, I think, as far as the way people teach music. But it was started by Gunther Schuller, an incredible visionary conductor, composer, musical pioneer, who really built that school up and built this department, because back in the day, his concept of third stream was that third stream music was the combination of classical music and jazz, right? This sort of melding marriage of the two that took took certain aspects of classical music combined with improvisation to create this other art form, But that expanded into sort of really anything you could take. You could take punk rock and tube and throat singing, and you can put that together and find your own style.
Yeah.
That was the premise behind the program. So that's where I ended up, and I barely finished, got out of there.
But you met a lot of cool people while you were there.
And, yeah.
It
was a great team. Ben Porowski, who I played with, for the Hudson Valley Boats, we met in Boston.
Wow.
And played together in various things. And there's a lot of great musicians there. There's a lot of people that we know about now. Donnie McCaslin, the tenor player. You know, a lot of people, were in Boston at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
Dave Fusinski, I met Dave Fusinski there, who I played with quite a bit, and we made records together, and our date are once again doing things together now, and I met Bob Moses, who was a very important figure for me. Rockalam is the name he uses now, and amazing drummer, teacher, mentor, creative spirit, influence for myself, and a lot to do. He had a lot to do with the Medeski Martin Wood happening.
Yep. I was just going to say, after college, you went to New York, correct? Moved to New York City?
Yeah, I made, it's funny, after Boston, because, in Boston I was, the reason I had trouble finishing school is because I ended up playing a lot of music and working. Mm-hmm. And that's when I got into the Hammond organ. I started playing with this blues band, Mr. Jelly Belly's Jazz and Blues Band. And he was really into the B3 and had like stacks of 45s of all the classic, Hammond music. And
so you never played the piano, the B3 until you were in college?
Yeah, the first B3 I ever played, I think I was probably 17, is the first time I played a B3. Mm-hmm. And we went into a practice room, or not practice room, but a smaller performance hall at the school. And in the back was this big box under this cover, and we pulled it off. It was a B3, and we plugged it in and figured out how to turn it on. And I just started playing it, and I was like, whoa, this thing. I realized just from that first moment, just looking at the tubes and watching the thing light up, and I just realized what an epic instrument it was. And that moment sort of began my exploration of the B3. Just even like sonically, I realized like, whoa, man, this can do a lot.
Yeah.
Even beyond what I've heard in jazz. I'd listened to a lot. Of course, growing up listening to jazz, I listened to Jimmy Smith. I loved Larry Young, and I listened to all that stuff. But when I saw the instrument, I realized that this thing just is, just this orchestra of sound. So I started getting into it. I ended up in a blues band and really got into the B3 from that angle,
Yeah.
But I still never imagined, I still was imagining I'd be a piano player. That's kind of what I thought.
Right. Well, see what happens when you think about it. It's like, you got to be.
You never know.
You never know. You got to be open to other stuff coming your way, which apparently you were.
Yeah.
So
from Boston, I moved to the Berkshires. To the woods.
Really?
I just had to get out of the city. Yeah, it's kind of like how I think it's I just kind of end up in the woods.
Yeah.
And but then New York sucked me in, and I went to move. Around '89, I started moving sort of half time in the city, and then was really full time there. 90, 91. And got an apartment with Chris Wood.
And how did you guys meet? Did you meet through Bob Moses, or how did you and Chris meet?
I actually met Chris on a gig in Boston with the band leader of the Either Orchestra, Russ Gershon, a band I played with in Boston. We had some gig, and Chris Wood on bass, and I don't know, we kind of connected, musically and personally and everything on that gig, and then we ended up on a tour together that Bob Moses was on as well. It was myself, Chris, Bob Moses, and a steel pan player from Trinidad, JP, and with a sax player from Israel named Shlomi Goldenberg, and we did a 3-week tour of Israel and hung out, lived together, played together for 3 weeks, and it was a blast. And Chris and we got to know each other really well, and just started playing together,
Right.
And then ended up moving to New York City. We got an apartment, shared an apartment there, and at that point I had this, a couple times a year I'd have these 2-week stints at the Village Gate, playing duo, and that's kind of how it all started. Really.
And then Billy Martin, of course. Where did he come in?
Well, I met Billy Martin through Bob Moses at a gig in Boston. Billy was a percussionist playing with Bob. And the thing about Bob Moses is, one of the things about Bob Moses that is amazing is he really had knack for working with younger musicians, and and schooling them and helping, and he just really it was a certain kind of generosity that he always had, where he really would take that on, which is it's kind of a old school thing, to get younger musicians, to get that young blood in there, and and it's a great way for young musicians to grow too, to get to play with these
masters.
Older, who have this history, and it's a way to link the history and keep the lineage going, So Bob, I met Billy with Bob, and was kind of like blown away by when he sat down at the drum set for one song, and just how how he played, and we talked. Hey, we got to get we'll play sometime. So when I moved to the city, I actually ended up, or maybe I'm some point in there. Maybe I hadn't quite moved there, but I was going back and forth. I ended up getting together with Billy. We played duo at his loft. I brought a little organ over there, and we played duo together. He recorded it, and we just we hung out, and that was so. It was sort of like I was playing with Chris duo at the Village Gate, and then I played with Billy. And at that time, Billy was playing with the Lounge and had his own band called Illy B, and we'd all just go see each other all the time, playing in different situations. And we finally just went over to Billy's loft with Chris, and we played together for the first time.
And was it like, whoa, this is really cool, like we got to do this more often, I guess, huh? It just kind of all came together for you guys.
I mean, it was kind of like it was like instant music, I have to say. That's the thing about it.
Wow.
Is like it wasn't. I mean, the Village Gate had started to expand to having trios, and I played with some great drummers. Gene Calderazzo was one of them, amazing, and but I think because Billy was not a straight ahead jazz drummer. That's not where he was coming from. He was coming from more from being a Brazilian percussionist and playing hip hop and funk and that kind of music, more dance oriented music. But he was definitely a very creative, expansive musician,
Right.
So when we got together, I mean, it really was like the first thing we played was, whatever. Billy started the beat, Chris started the bass line, I started playing, and we ended up transcribing the very first thing we ever played, and it ended up on our first record.
Notes from the Underground.
Yeah, and the song was called Uncle Chub. That was literally just a transcription of the first improvisation that we played together. I wrote up horn parts, and, just from the stuff I played, and we just,
Wow.
It was kind of, that's how instantly we were creating music together. It was that kind of chemistry,
Right.
And that's how it started, So we started, we just started like that.
It started
and then
like that,
took it out on the road,
Yeah, and grew quite a fan base too. And then, of course, that really cool release that you guys recorded in that shack in Hawaii. Tell us about that story. That's a great story.
I'll tell you that story. So we went out on, let's say, around 90. We got together in 91. Or somewhere around 92, we sent out press kits and stuff to places. And we had some friends at a few different places. And we ended up just getting in Billy's van and driving out and playing. And I was using mainly a digital piano the first time. And I hated it. So I think we ended up getting a gig at the Knitting Factory, right? And so I pulled out the organ, and we created a set of music with the organ, and it felt really good. So the next time we went out, we decided to do organ. So I got a Wurlitzer electric piano. It's because I didn't like the digital piano, so I wanted some kind of piano-y thing, and I love Wurlitzer. So that's kind of how the electric keyboard thing started. Was for me was like that in that band, to like out of necessity, because none of the clubs had pianos. So the pianos were deteriorating all across America. No longer a priority.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wanted to play a real instrument, and I wanted to sound good. So because it was organ and Wurlitzer, and I went out, and as we traveled, the guy I got my Wurlitzer from was like, hey, have you ever tried a clavinet? So I tried the clavinet, and then same guy next year, hey, did you ever check out a Mellotron?
Oh, man.
And I just started adding these ARP stringos. I just started adding different colors, different instruments, mainly just to have more variety of sound, and textures, because it was just three of us,
Yeah.
And so we basically, we're out in the van. At a certain point, bought a camper together, like just made that leap, that was a huge leap, because we wanted to tour, but we weren't making any money and staying in crappy hotels, or mainly we were sleeping on people's floors. We would show up at a gig, no idea where we're going to stay, meet some people, crash on their floor, and
sounds wonderful.
That's kind of how we did it, and then
it's very cool.
So we decided to get a camper because that would make it easier for us. So we'd have our own beds and we could cook food, so we didn't have to go out to eat. That's really what started. So then that put us. We sublet our apartments in the city and made that kind of commitment to try this, because it was fun, and it was just happening on its own. So we ended up staying out on the road for a couple of years like that, just traveling everywhere. So in the winters, when it's cold, we started going to Hawaii.
Sweet.
Through a connection through Bob Moses and Billy, knew these people knew this friend of ours on the Big Island who had the shack, Carl Green. He owned this place that was called the Shack, and then he had a treehouse closer to the water. So we just rented the shack for a couple of months. We ended up in the shack and stayed there, while we were, waiting for it to warm up and go back on the road. And that sort of became and so we just started collecting some instruments and started playing in the shack. I mean, that's really how it happened. Just swimming in the day,
recording in the evening and then at night. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first we weren't recording; we were just playing. But we really loved the way this shack sounded. It had a certain sound. We got into a certain feeling, a certain spirit when we were there that was just very unique to that place. So when it came time to make our next record, we just had the idea, hey, what if we take the record budget, instead of paying ourselves, why don't we just buy some solar panels and do whatever we need to do to record in the shack. So that's what we did.
Incredible.
And that's where we recorded Shack.
Incredible. Now, there's a movie about Medeski, Martin, and Wood that came out. I saw it last year at the Woodstock Film Festival, and Billy Martin was there doing a little solo thing. Your thoughts about the movie?
Well, I think that was just sort of a, first showing of it. It hasn't really come out yet, as far as I know.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, it was great. You've seen it, obviously, yeah?
Yeah. We filmed it. We did it up at Alair Studios here in the Hudson Valley. That's where
it was supposed to be somewhere else, right? And then something fell through.
To be in Mexico. No, they had an earthquake. And in Mexico, they kind of made it impossible, to go there, and because the power was out and everything, and we had this time set aside. So we ended up, going into Alair, which used to be this unbelievable recording studio, but they didn't have any other recording equipment anymore. So we had to bring in all this gear into Alair, and we ended up, filming and recording a bunch of music that has yet to be released.
Wow. Good stuff.
That's one of the things I try to send you that we're not, unfortunately, not going to be able to play.
Yeah,
but
unfortunately.
It'll come out.
So you guys doing a release for your 30th anniversary, which is, I think, next year, right? 2021.
Oh, my God.
30 years, John.
Well, maybe, I guess that'll be it. I mean, we really haven't done, we took a year off that has turned into many years off now, several years off. Chris Wood has really launched out with the Wood Brothers.
Yep.
Billy's involved with the Creative Music Studio, teaching a lot and doing his own stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of which, you guys are coming together as Medeski, Martin, and Wood, part of the Creative Music Studio.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We had this run 5 years. We did a camp. We called it Camp MMW, and it was out in Big Indian at the Full Moon Resort. They still do a lot of music stuff out there. Or they did. They were doing it before the plague, and so we did 5 years out there. These week-long camps, and they were or 5 days, and it was amazing. Really enjoyed it, sharing info and whatever we have with. We call it a boot camp. It was all day, start in the morning, all through, and then every night we show different films that inspired us, and and it was really a blast. So, Billy really launched into a lot of teaching since then, privately and otherwise, and has sort of taken over as director of the Creative Music Studio, which has an incredible history here in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, it does.
It's what's come through there, it's amazing. Carl Berger is an incredible teacher and musician, and they've, a lot of musicians passing there. It's actually crazy to think of some of the musicians that we know, like Stephen Bernstein, Spiro Baptista. Some of their first experiences on the East Coast were like Steve came out from California, Sarah came from Brazil, and that was like, where a lot of people landed, early on.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It has this history, and now Billy's there and, trying to keep it going and take it into the next era, So he presented the idea of doing this course, which we decided we're going to do. And even Chris is going to do it remotely from Nashville. He's going to be involved. And, it's going to be in MMW, like a course, and how we do things.
I love what you guys are calling it. It's being booked as inside the minds, outside the lines.
Yep, that's pretty clever.
I think so. I think you guys came up with a good thing. And this is a 5-week interactive workshop, which is, how cool is that to be able to do something and participate in something like that during this time when,
it's going to be every Wednesday night for start next week, I guess, right?
Yep.
5 weeks.
Yep.
And we got a lot of stuff we're going to share and teach, so it's really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you have to sign up, obviously, for it at MedeskiMartinandWood.com to be able to join in.
Yeah, or you can sign, there's a lot of things. You can sign it up off my website, off Medeski Martin Wood. You go to the Creative CMS website.
Yep. Yeah.
It's out there in a lot of ways, for sure.
John, you're keeping busy during these crazy times. That's for sure. And you got that starting next week. Then, like you mentioned, we cannot leave you without saying one more time, Sunday at the Falcon with Mark Rebo and Casa Overall.
Yeah, actually, Casa, this has changed. He had to cancel for a reason I don't know, but I know he can't do it. So it's going to be Joe Dyson on drums, a great drummer, young drummer from New Orleans who plays with like Lonnie Smith and Christian Scott, and he's incredible.
Beautiful.
And he actually, I toured with him a year or so ago with my band Mad Skillet. He subbed for Terrence Higgins when Terrence couldn't make it because he's too much of a rock star for us. And Joe, Terrence and Joe did. Joe was amazing. Really connected with him. It was great.
Awesome. That's coming up Sunday night live. You can see John Medeski in person here in the Hudson Valley. You just have to make reservations. You can't just show up. Everything's like, socially distant. The tables are. Everybody wears a mask until you sit down. It's a pretty safe place to be. And yeah. So much fun. You called it, I saw a post of yours, you called the Falcon during this time an oasis. And that's exactly how I've been feeling about it, because going there makes me feel just a little bit, just for a couple hours, that the world is normal again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of what Tony's been doing there from the beginning, and have had the opportunity to play there, when I can. I've done a lot. I've been lucky to get to do a lot of gigs with Casigi Munoz there.
Yes.
Who is another, one of the great treasures of this area.
Absolutely. I had him on my show in person because it was a couple of years ago. It was an honor, and it was so deep, and it was so moving. And oh my gosh, after the interview was over, we must have talked for like another hour, off air. And what a soul he is. What a gentle human being.
He's an incredible human, incredible being, incredible teacher, incredible musician and guitar player and writer. And it's such a treat to get work with him anytime I can. And we were, I feel really lucky that we got, had a few runs at the Falcon that were, really great.
Yeah,
everyone different, and
Yeah, and that's the beauty of him. He's just, you guys together are just a really a beautiful pair.
It's real spiritual music. There's a lot of people out there, in this quote unquote spiritual jazz, mode, but there's not a lot of people really living it so that it's actually real. And He is, and it is.
Yeah, he is. He in a way reminds me, because he's so revolutionary. He reminds me of Carl Berger, just in that same kind of fashion, and just the improvisation of the two. And I don't know. I love Carl. I've had him and Ingrid on, and boy, what
they're fantastic.
Yeah, just learn so much from them just by listening, and it's amazing what we can do if we listen a little more. So, John Medeski, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I adore watching you perform. I'm going to hope to get my butt to the Falcon on Sunday. I try to get to any show that I know you're playing live at, because it's such a treat during these times, because you're all over the world and all over the nation typically. So we don't get a big chance to see you much here in the Hudson Valley.
I'm home now.
Yes.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So
I'm home. I haven't been in one place this long, probably since I was a kid. Seriously.
Yeah, I bet.
It's been great. It's great. I love being here. I live in a beautiful place. Feel very lucky to be safe and surrounded by trees. But I just want to say, I think what you just said is really, at the end of the day, it is the key right now, and that is to listen. Mm-hmm. All around. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of with everything that's going on.
Right. Yeah.
We're also busy. On social media, we're also busy talking and saying and showing what we're doing, and we have to listen.
Yeah,
really.
We do. I try to shut off a couple of times, especially on the weekends. I mean, here and there, but it just feels good to be quiet and just listen to everything around you. So yeah, good stuff. So, Mr. Medeski, I want to play this track that you sent me. Tell me about Saint Disruption Painstorms here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're going to play it.
This is heavy, all right?
All right.
We're going to play it. It's heavy.
I'm ready.
Yeah, it's a new project that I'm involved with a guy that I've known I actually met in the jungle of Ecuador many years ago, and we have sort of reconnected, and recently, and he's really pushing this. He's really pushing this new project. He's writing some music, and I helped write. I wrote the music for this one too, and he did the beats, and it features Umar from The Last Poets.
Ah, okay.
It's his words, it's his poetry, and it's heavy. It's really heavy.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to play it here, which is great.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, I think it's really beautiful, and it hasn't even been released yet. It will be released very soon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing this, by the way. I'm always honored when musicians do this. They send me music and it hasn't been released yet, and it's so cool to be able to hear this before it's released. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. It's also The Last Poet's 50th anniversary. So it's sort of, I think that's sort of what kind of inspired Jeff to get Umar involved, and he very graciously did and wrote these incredible words, deep, intense words, and very vulnerable words,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was an honor to be part of that and get to do the music. It's just playing piano, but it was nice.
It's very nice of you to send it along. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time here today. Listen, anytime, please come back. You get more music out, you get anything. I could talk to you for hours. So I thank you for your time here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. We'll catch you next time. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Falcon. All right.
Yeah, see you there. Cheers.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, John Medeski, Martin, and Wood. The interactive workshops coming up. He'll be at the Falcon Sunday, live at thefalcon.com. Let's take a listen to this new yet unreleased project by John Medeski.
Rainstorms, painstorms. The desert is full of children dry mouths and parched skins. This poem is about demons. It is not about magic. A tiny drop of water upon their lips. They ride cruise missiles bareback, lollipops and juicy fruits packed in suicide bombs. They are dead on arrival. The Gaza Strip, the Sunset Strip, the drug strip. Stray bullets and boiling water comes to grip with smothered smiles. I am the voice of every child. I am that moment when your love becomes twisted and you decide to construct an asylum upon my innocence. I am that moment when you walk away, when you turn off the light and leave me struggling and groping for imagination becomes a pin cushion for fear and paranoia. I am that moment when you walk away and leave me to my own self-devices and live sex shows sliding down poles with Hershey kisses dripping from my mouth. The abuse began in the womb. Savage thoughts, savage thrusts. You hated each other. How could you love me? And now I run and hide under dim streetlights, exposing our truth to the world. Armageddon is clear. It is here. Dead animals on the road, more and more each day. I am your child. I was your child. I am no longer a child. I am a threat. I am a menace. I am your death if you don't learn how to respect my touch, respect my feelings, respect my existence. Brainstorms, rainstorms, pain storms.
.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York, yet unreleased. Saint Disruption, Pain Storms, with John Medeski. Thank you to John Medeski for being my guest during this 5 o'clock hour. Whew, always a pleasure talking with him, and so much music, so much wonderful music. He's been on over 300 recordings. JohnMedeski.com, MedeskiMartinandWood.com. John's playing Sunday with Mark Rebo at the Falcon, and he's doing the interactive online workshop with Medeski, Martin, and Wood as part of Creative Music Studio. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. My time is up. I'll do this very, very quickly. Musical incidental music happening at the Bardavon 50th Anniversary Tribute to Grateful Dead, American Beauty, November 1st. Barnstock is happening in Woodstock this Saturday with Scott Sherrard. On Sunday, the 25th, the live stream, Lindsay Webster, Bearsville, Woodstock. Colony, Woodstock. Live music Wednesday through Sunday. Live stream concert also at Daryl's House Club. And the Falcon. Always great music there. Sign up for their email list and for updates. And Howland Cultural Center doing a live stream on Sunday with violinist and celloist Colin and Jacob Jacobson. Lots of great